This episode is sponsored by Humanity, the full-service marketing agency that was built for changemakers. We believe that bold ideas can shift culture and can shape the future. It's why we work with founders and innovators and leaders to amplify their bold visions and turn their purpose into impact. Through strategy, behavioral science, and storytelling, we help organizations bring clarity to who they are, what they stand for, and how they connect with the world. We're here to help changemakers like you build what's next. Learn more at humanityagency.com.
We're live. Hi, Marianne.
Hi.
So this is Mark Harrison from Sponsorship X, and I'm welcoming you to season 2 of the Sponsorship X podcast. In this season, we are talking about and with changemakers, and had some great conversations. And some people love talking about themselves, and some people don't. And if they don't, then we just, we just make stuff up. No, I'm kidding. Marianne, I'm so glad you're here. Do you like my scarfy scarf?
I love your scarf. Be where it all begins. That's what that scarf is all about.
Yeah, that's exact. I think that's what it says on this side, does it not? Here we are.
Yep.
Oops.
Yep.
If I had any coordination. You can tell I never worked in retail, right? Oh, would you like this sweater as I drop it on the floor? Hey, Marianne, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers and maybe share who you are, name, rank, and serial number.
Okay. I'm super excited to be here. I've never done this before, so bear with me. But I'm Marianne. I am the Vancouver-based VP of Partnerships for the Northern Super League. I have been in this role since August of 2024. And I'd like to put context on that date because August 2024, it's a year and a bit ago. So not too long, but at that moment in time, we had just announced the name of the league in May. A couple clubs had started to come out with their club identities. We had some founding partners that were supporting in Project 8, but had not yet transitioned into investing into the league itself. No players, no schedule, some stadiums that had not yet been confirmed. So joined at a moment in time when there was still a lot of work to be done. And now a year and a bit later, it's amazing to think that we've accomplished as much as we have in that period of time.
Congratulations.
Should I go further back? Should I share any more?
Let's go further back because this is about changemakers. So I'd love for you to share a little bit of your story. I stole this expression from somebody and I've been using it. Some people seem to like it, so I'm going to throw it at you. Read us your LinkedIn profile.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, if we're going to go way back, I guess I can.
You can do it.
I can take you back, Marianne Brooks or Marianne Banton, I guess, at that moment in time. I grew up in the U.S. I grew up in Seattle, and I grew up as a golfer.
Really?
Golf was my sport.
What was the strength of your game? Long game, short game?
You know what? It was never putting. If I had I was a bit of a boring player. I would kind of keep it in play. But if I found myself in a hot putter, then that's when things could get dangerous, in a good way and in a bad way, I guess. But I grew up playing golf. I grew up playing golf at a time where there wasn't a lot of girls playing golf. Had a couple amazing golfers to look up to from, this was Annika Sorenstam really stepping into that space and doing amazing things. But I grew up playing on the boys team because there weren't enough girls that wanted to play, but then managed to get a couple folks interested enough to field the girls team growing up. So golf was my sport, managed to play in university, played for UBC. I sent a DVD to the coach. I wasn't on his radar, but sent a DVD.
You're going to have to explain to people what that acronym is, DVD.
Yeah, it's a disc.
There's younger people listening to this than you and I. Just put it out there.
Yeah. I was trying to remember if it was a VCR or DVD. I'm pretty sure it was a DVD that I sent to the coach, and he brought me up for a recruiting trip, and I played 4 years with UBC. We won a bunch of national titles. We had a lot of success in that program. And then pursued a kinesiology degree at UBC that allowed me to get into the sports space through an internship. And
I was going to ask how you wound up here. So that's how we imported you.
Yeah. And so now
was there a tariff on you? Did we have to pay 25% or anything to bring you up?
No, that U.S. passport is dusty and sitting somewhere in my closet. But proudly Canadian. I have Canadian parents.
Woo-woo.
Just grew up in the U.S.
Okay, got it. I understand.
Yeah, so that's the OG, the origin story, if you will.
Yeah,
Is
I love your comment calling yourself a boring golfer.
Yeah. If my coach could come by and see what kind of round I was having pretty easily. He knew if I was playing well or not just by taking a look at me. He used to tell me actually that it was the way that I would walk.
Oh, really?
That was a
Okay.
signal of if I was having a good round or not.
What does your good walk look like? Like when you're in the groove, you're in the moment, you're in your zone.
Well, I can't remember which personality test it is, but it's one of the ones where you get a letter. I'm not
Right.
recalling off the top of my head, but I'm a D personality, and dominant was what D stands for in that context. And so if I'm walking with a taller posture, and I guess it also may be connected to cadence, he could tell if I was having a good round. I'm like a body language person that, I guess, meaning I don't have a good poker face.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because I don't know you super well, but boring is never a word I would have used with you, but it's actually a compliment in golf, in my opinion, because I think that when you get distracted and you start worrying, like you look at some golfers and they walk the course, they spend a whole day, and they have a little bit of chit chat with their caddy or whatever, but they just seem to be on a different planet, in a different world. Like there's, you're out there with literally like acres and acres of land and all these animals and other people, but somehow you're able to shrink that world just to yourself, which is how I would describe boring. But I'm not a very good golfer, so you can tell me if I'm even remotely right.
Well, yeah, I can tell you there's many rounds that were not boring, but when I was at my best, I was playing a pretty straightforward round of golf, posting a good number and contributing for my team.
I want to keep going through your OG story, but I just need to dial back to something you said that I think is it's incredibly relevant to what you do for a living right now.
Yeah.
You said there was no girls team, so I had to play on the boys team.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that like if you were going to write a memoir today, would that be a chapter? Would that be the title, or would that be just a sentence, or would that be the opening sentence or the last?
I think so, because it's not, I think with hindsight, I realize how impactful that experience was on me now, and maybe giving me fuel for the work I'm doing today. Right. Like I grew up, like I remember when Title IX happened, and all of a sudden it felt like opportunity was going to be available to me that wasn't there before. Right. And ironically, the sport that I love was a sport where Title IX would actually benefit women's golf in a greater way than others, because you needed to offer those opportunities to girls and women. And so, I played a lot of other sports growing up. There was something about golf that captured me in a different way than the other ones, enough so that I wanted to play, and I would play wherever I could. But then it was, the challenge for me is that I had to, find other people that wanted to play alongside me so that we could have some fun together and do some things competing with other girls. But I think like, I've been in kind of male dominated environments, not only in the sport that I chose, that was kind of male dominated, more so male dominated at that time, but then also the bulk of my career before the NSL was in a male dominated environment for the most part in the NHL, working for the Canucks. So I think now stepping into the women's professional sports space, little Marianne, like I almost feel like I'm doing work for her, right? Of letting the next generation know that like you can dream to play professionally in a league that's made for you. And maybe where that wasn't available to me, and it chose a path that maybe was a little bit more difficult, but now it's going to be able to be seen a little bit more. It's going to be able to be on your TVs, and you're going to be able to go and buy tickets and enjoy it, and really dream about what that's going to look like for the next generation. So
take me from the golf course to today. You mentioned a couple of roles that you had, but take us along the way. You don't need to give us every job and every promotion and every email address. Like it's funny, I think back to like we used to collect business cards. Now we're going to collect email addresses, and soon we won't even have those.
Well, now we're just going to touch phones with each other. It's not
right.
Like,
I already do that. The bump got the bump going.
Yeah, I love
that. Maybe some other contributing highlights or influences that got you to here, to this notion, this area now where you are creating these leagues for little Mariannes to have an opportunity to watch and play in?
Well, I mentioned the Canucks. I was there
Yep.
for 10 years. I loved being in that organization. And that was really, I think, where I got my, where I figured out the fundamentals, and also stepped into an organization, and also a moment in time in sponsorship where there's really big shifts that were happening. Where I remember distinctly when I jumped into that organization in 2012, it's kind of the traditional playbook of sponsorship, and it was, starting to shift into the space where we were doing things that were a little bit more integrated with our partners. But I was a baby in the corporate world. I think I was 25, 24 when I joined that organization. And had a great group of people around me there, and really was able to see kind of that shift of like, oof, this isn't about cutting a check and being really pleased with my logo. Got to really witness that change over the course of 10 years with the Canucks. Also growth in myself personally. I went from, early 20s when I joined the Canucks to being married with 2 kids upon my departure. So I think a lot of personal growth and professional growth in that organization. And then also witnessing kind of towards the tail end, this amazing emergence that was happening on the women's sports side of things. But in between the work at the Canucks on the partnerships team there, I also stepped into a role with a fan data technology company called Stellar Algo, which was an amazing experience to be able to step out of the team environment, step into kind of the technology space, the way in which technology just is going to allow us to connect with fans in a deeper way, serve sponsors in a better way, and gained really awesome experience there before now jumping into the NSL in August of 24.
Amazing. And when you think about your journey, and it was interesting hearing you talk about kind of, coming in as a young career, early professional, leaving, being a partner and a parent and all these other things. But when you think about, like, as you were working and you're watching these different transformations, is there anybody where you'd be like, maybe at the time you realized it, or maybe in hindsight you realized it, who was a true change maker, like a pioneer or somebody who's innovating in ways that had an impact on you or the businesses you were working on?
There's a few names that pop into my brain. One, tough to pinpoint. I think there's a couple folks. Like I had the opportunity to work with somebody at Pepsi, Andrea Houston, if I'll mention her name, who just is one of those individuals that I think about that was a full commit mom and supporting her sons in their athletic endeavors, and full commit in her role at Pepsi and managing that portfolio. And I think as I stepped into my role as on the corporate side and on the personal side, and realizing how challenging it is to manage a family and a really demanding job, just watching her be able to do that. And maybe there's one example there. And then, honestly, the opportunity that I've had now here at the NSL to work along some really powerful women who share in similar experiences of working in the traditional sports space, and now having the permission to do things differently on the women's side of things, or the emerging side of sport. And also just to realize how much shared experience we've all had, because some of us have come from other traditional sports leagues. That's been really rewarding, of just this shared understanding without even having to say things. Because we know we've been in similar rooms, different organizations, but similar rooms where similar decisions are getting made, or
you understand the patterns and how they...
Yeah, like it's there's some common ground there, or I get you before I like it really, really quickly, right? Without having to have those conversations.
Okay, let's deep dive into the NSL, because it's kind of why we're here. But I just got to go back for one quick second. It's very personal to me, and you and I did not rehearse this when I asked you about a change maker from Pepsi, because I've known Andrea Houston since she was Andrea Stringer in her first role at Skydome, and I was fortunate enough to work with her on a American Bowl when the Green Bay Packers and Buffalo Bills came to Canada to play an exhibition game. And it's really interesting that you brought that, because I also, as a man who's obviously never birthed children and probably in my partnership probably got the benefit of my Karen doing more, is just watching her with those guys. And my youngest son and her youngest son, her oldest son, who's in the NBA, were born within months of each other. And we had a funny moment at the NBA All-Star when we all ran to each other for a picture, and Caleb, her guy, is about 1.5 feet taller than my guy, and I have this hilarious picture of my guy sort of sheepishly hanging out with Caleb. But to your point, like that one son in the NBA, another one playing, Power 5 NCAA football at Notre Dame, a very demanding job. And I think what was interesting, the way you talked about her, you didn't mention what you said. You talked about what she did and what you saw. And I think that's when we think about leadership, right? That great quote, it's what you do when you don't realize people are watching you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she was one of the people I called when I was sharing that I was departing the Canucks. She was one of the people that I called that I knew I wanted to call and just thank her for, because you didn't realize maybe also just like how much it takes, right, to be able to operate at that level across multiple dimensions of your life, right? That to be full commit here and here and here and here takes a lot. And so, just thanking her for the opportunity to work alongside her for a couple of years was, and she's just impressive in that way. So that's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to dive in the Northern Super League.
Okay, let's do it.
We're talking change makers. You are, on one hand, surrounded by change makers, starting with Diana and the leadership team. And at the other hand, you're also trying to partner with change makers. So we can kind of chunk this out a little bit. Tell us about like the recruiting, like how did you get connected to the Northern Super League? What was the discussion? Take us behind the scenes. Who pitched who? Then we'll get into a little bit about talking about starting this sponsorship portfolio, this partnership portfolio from scratch, because you're literally recruiting change makers. But let's start with you and the NSL.
The role was posted, and I think this probably happens with others. People would probably share similar stories about when a role gets posted on LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden your phone goes like bing, 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 bing,
right. This is you. This has got your name on it.
Yeah, there are people in my network that knew that at that time I was looking. And when the role got posted, and what brought a lot of joy to me was Northern Super League VP of Partnerships remote. Because those sort of revenue leadership roles, as we know, there's a desire for that individual to be based in Toronto a lot of times. I live in Vancouver. And I feel really confident that you can be anywhere in this country and be successful within that space. And I was just so happy to see that the NSL was building something that wanted to bring in people that represented coast to coast to coast, and was open to a revenue generating position that was not in Toronto. So that checked the box for me immediately. My friends were sending it to me. I knew I wanted to throw my name in the ring, as mentioned, connecting because growing up in a sport where there wasn't as much opportunity for women, it connected with me in a number of different ways. So immediately I'm trying to think, how do I get my network getting to Christina Litz?
Yeah. Stop talking to me. I need you guys promoting me. It's almost like a political campaign, right? You're getting your signs made and your endorsements.
Yeah. Seeing, I'm second connections with Christina at that point. Who knows her well? Who can potentially vouch for me? And so grateful for my network, for getting my name in front of Christina. Super grateful for that. And then they had a fantastic firm in Mark Adkins and his crew that was chatting with folks about the role. And so had a couple conversations with his team, and found myself in a really fun interview with Christina where I was really nervous because of it's Christina Litz and wanted to impress. And I'm thinking I'm the one out in Vancouver who maybe needs to prove herself more than potentially other candidates that are going to be in the GTA. So I had a really positive interview process, and then found myself on a call with Christina, Diana, and Joyce Sue. And the questions they were asking me just gave me such a feeling like, oh, they're hiring a person. It's not a role,
Ooh.
right? They're looking for, yeah, can you do this? But the questions were like guilty pleasures, or I can't remember exactly what some of the questions were. And I think my answer was RuPaul's Drag Race. And Doritos or something. I can't, and it was just like whatever came to my brain. And I felt so comfortable to share that with them, because what I could tell they were looking for was like, can this person step into what at that time was a pretty small group? And can they jump in, and are they led with the values that we lead with? It's a very values-led organization. I'll say that right away. Also in the job title, another thing, or the job description, another thing that struck me was sense of humor. Was on there, and I can't remember if it was like nice.
That could be a bit of pressure for some people, right? Like, you think about it, most people like, I'm afraid of public speaking. I'm not funny.
Like, can you banter with us? Can you have fun with this? Because this is going to be a challenge, right? Like, this is not a role where it's guaranteed. This is a role where you're building, creating, doing things for the first time, most of the time. And so if you can't have a sense of humor, that can maybe feel heavy on some folks. So the fact that sense of humor was something that we're looking for, I thought was a really good signal. So yeah, it was a super positive process. I was thrilled when the phone call happened. I think Christina was even going to be like out of cell service, and she just texted me when we got things done and was so excited to get it going. And yeah, so it was a wonderful process. Like, I felt like they wanted to get to know me, make sure that I knew what I was doing, but could Marianne?
That was table stakes in their minds, right? It was about the relationship, the fit.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, maybe Stella goes with this, but is this your first startup?
Yes. Even when I joined Stellar Algo, they were scaling and growing. And so I think I stepped in following the Series A round of funding. And so, this certainly is the most startup environment that I've been in.
Hey friends, I hope you're as excited as I am about the Sponsorship X Changemaker Summit being held November 13th to 15th in Toronto, in conjunction with the historic first ever professional women's soccer championship in this country, the NSL Final. Now, when you think about being a change maker, that to me speaks to innovation, entrepreneurship, impact. And we're going to have a lineup of speakers from around the world, workshops, sessions, a football tournament, as in soccer, not this type of football. Mix and mingles, great engagement, some sneak previews. We're going to be all over the city. We are going to have documentaries. We're going to have amazing opportunities to interact with NSL stars. And best of all, we're all attending the NSL Final on Saturday, November 15th. Sign up today at sponsorshipx.com. I was asking you, you mentioned the league is very values-led, and I was asking you, what's your favorite value?
That's a great question. There's many, and we continue to go back to them to go, are these the right ones? Do we need to change? Do we need to, do we need to add anything? But one of the things that I think is a really important one that is a good reminder for me, but then also I think when you're stepping into this startup space is assume people have positive intent in their interaction. So I don't think there's a better way to describe how that translates into a value. But one of the things we know of everybody that's on this journey with the Northern Super League is that we all are striving to get to the same thing. We all have huge aspirations for what this league can be. We all have such a strong emotional connection to this. We feel very strongly about what we're doing. But we are in a startup environment, and what that creates is that we're moving quickly. We're making decisions quickly. We're pursuing progress over perfection, because if you're seeking perfection, gosh, that's going to take longer than the time that we have
to get there. Yeah.
And so just ensuring that in all of our interactions, we're assuming that the folks that are part of that interaction are acting with positive intent. And just, I think that allows us to give us grace as we get through this first season. But then also just to know we're all in this together. So I think that's a really important value, one that I try to continue to keep front of mind, because it is a lot to build a league from scratch. And everyone is pulling their weight and some to get us there. And so, try to keep that value top of mind.
I think it's such a powerful one. I think it's probably one that, you'd agree with me that you have to kind of exercise it a little bit, right? Like, it's that equivalent of like, I can't just throw this value on a wall and then hope that we all deploy it. It's the, my bad example would be, I don't play golf, so I don't have any golf analogies, but my bad example would be, as a squash player, I tend to overrun the ball because I'm quicker than I look.
That is a great quality to have.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah. But I only know that because I often play younger players and they're like, I don't know how you got to that. But because of that, I sometimes cheat and rely on my quickness and then I overrun the ball. And so it's about staying away from the ball. One of the best tips I've ever received from a coach was stay away from the ball. Like and so often if I've got an important singles match, I'll just do some air warm-ups where I pretend the ball is in places and try to make sure I'm fully stretched. So how do you practice that daily? How do you practice that? Okay, we want to deploy this value all the time. Mm-hmm. We want everybody to say like, assume the other person has the best intentions, but you got to work at it. So how do you work at that?
I think it's almost like we all kind of have the opportunity to check ourselves to ensure that value is being upheld. Right. It's to your point, like if we all kind of have a responsibility in ensuring that these values are upheld. We have a fantastic culture at the NSL. I'll offer a shout out to that crew of just, it's tough in remote environments to build a strong culture. It may be easier in in-person environments. We're a remote office. And so we, that presents its own set of challenges as you're building something as you're flying it. But I am privileged to be working around people that remind us if we're starting to deviate off of those values. Like there's a high trust level with the team that we have because we've gone through so much in this last year. There's definitely been moments over the course of the season where I'm like, something might get you fired up, but then try to put yourselves in the position of that individual. What is the context that might be shaping the reaction? And how can we just try to remember that as much as we can in the way that we're responding? I think another thing is like, because we're moving so fast, you can sometimes feel the pressure to respond to something right away. If that's a question or you need to act on something, a whole bunch of examples, but sometimes you're better served if you just take that moment of pause, right? And then come to it with like sound mind of, okay, I've absorbed all the context of the situation. I feel prepared to respond now. That's one of the topics that we actually had. We've had a number of sessions as the league staff all together, chatting about these sorts of things. And I think because in today's environment, we're always so accessible, but also we're a startup league that's trying to do a lot in a short period of time. That pressure of responding or acting right away when something hits your desk or hits your phone, but taking that moment of pause can serve you so well in just being able to then remember, okay, I'm going to assume that this individual is acting with positive intent. The context of their, the context that they're dealing with, I'm going to try to consider that in the way I'm responding. Take a little extra second. Hopefully that's more effective.
What's interesting about that is, I'm going to show my age here. In my first job, we were taught response turnaround times. Mm-hmm. and so it was, somebody calls you 24 business hours. If they fax you,
yes,
2 days. If it was a letter,
yes,
a week. If it was a courier letter, 3 days. So what I mean by that is, like, when I started working in downtown Toronto, there were bike couriers all over the place. Yeah. Now there's food delivery people. There was a lull in between. The bike courier generation era ended and the food delivery era started. But when we had something urgent, I got to send this over to Marianne at the Canucks. Mm-hmm. Well, I would write it up. My assistant, who was a man, which was a rarity in that time, would type it up. They would review it 9 times. He would make the changes. We'd put it in an envelope and we'd call in critical path, they were called. and they'd show up with a bike courier and ride it over to Marianne, and you would read it. You would have 3 days to get it back to me.
Yeah. Imagine all the perspective you gain in 3 days of how you're going to respond.
Phone messages, faxes. I mean, we mailed each other documents. I would mail contact reports from meetings. Okay, let's go back to Changemakers and the Northern Super League. And I do want to talk about partners in a minute, but I think it'd be pretty hard, even though this conversation's about you, to not talk about Diana.
Oh my gosh, let's go there.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I had the good fortune in my career to be managing different activations for partners and you name it. I think the first time I met Diana in person, we had her on board to help us with some BMO work, a program years ago called Team of the Week. But I was also very fortunate to be in London in 2012, which is kind of really the big, the bronze medal, the breakthrough. And I would say, I'm going to use this as a bit of a metaphor, but I have had the good fortune to see Diana at conferences and have her speak at our events. And this is just me talking because you get to work with her every day. But I feel like she's the person who's gone from, well, I used to answer questions about how I played.
Yeah.
And so on the stage, I'll answer questions. To now, I feel like she owns the stage. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen this growth. Mm-hmm. What's she like? What's it like working with her? What are you learning?
Funny. She's like, I remember, going back to the first interview and seeing her on screen, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's pretty amazing to be in her presence. Like she's just such a fantastic, we're so privileged to have her in this league. It's amazing that a player took it upon themselves to build this league. But Diana is an amazing leader at knowing where her strengths are and her superpower in this league, and also surrounding herself with people with superpowers that complement her as well, where like there's just an amazing, it makes sense. She's a team sport athlete, and she's building an amazing team around her to be able to get to the thing that we're trying to get to. She's smart. She's funny. Our work Slack makes me laugh every day because we're just, again, the banter back and forth is super fun. But the conviction that she has for what we're doing, I think, is an amazing quality that she has, because again, what we're doing is not easy. And Diana represents everything we're trying to do, right? She wants to leave the game in a better place than she found it. We're all trying to create a better future for women and girls in this country through this league. Also, the world is recognizing Diana's contribution, which I think is amazing. And sometimes the Canadian consciousness doesn't realize. Like she was just in Madrid with Christina getting a award at the World Football Summit, Women Executive of the Year, and so the world is watching what she's doing. Mm-hmm. Like it is incredible just to be able to work with her day in and day out. I don't know, like honestly, and then the last couple of weeks, she's been on media tours for the pitch, for NSL final. Right. She's doing a lot of work with the government and talking about some of the systemic issues that we still face as we're pushing things forward for women's sports. The work is not yet done at all in this space. We're growing, we're expanding, we're talking about investment. And she's at the heart of all of it, which is really amazing. And we couldn't have a better spokesperson for the league because of what she represents. Yeah.
And how do you think she or the league is tackling the doubters? Like, I think at some point, respectfully, I think some people went, oh, former athlete, went to MBA school, and here's her class project. Good luck. Right. Yeah. And now here we are. Right? Yeah. Like you're heading into a championship. You got national partners, global recognition, incredible blue chip brands. Yeah. I don't know if I told you this story the other day, but I can't remember, it was maybe Jess from your team, but I was at my squash club, which with all due respect, and I'm a member, is the whitest, most established Lucky Sperm place in Toronto. I'm talking to this Bay Street bro dude. He's like, what do you got going on? I said, well, we have this really cool conference coming up, and now you're going to get mad at me, but I'm going to tell you what I said. I said, and we're partnering with the Northern Super League. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Well, that's fair. Even Mark, I catch myself when people ask me what do you do for work? I said, sometimes I catch myself. I say professional women's soccer. because I'm not sure if that individual has encountered us yet.
So Bro, who's mid-50s, has a mid-20s son who works also on Bay Street. Following Bro goes, and I won't say their names. He says, "Are you kidding me? X and I have been to 4 AFC Toronto games at York. We love it. It's our favorite sport thing to do in Toronto. No daughter, no aunt, no sister, no wife, Bro and little Bro." Yeah. And I, first of all, felt stupid, if not guilty, for sort of backing into it. Like, and then I'm like, but this is what you guys are creating. But like less than a year ago, this was a school project.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe 2 years ago, right? Like, I mean, it was investors in paper and people out pitching and you're designing logos, but it's happening.
Yeah.
So how are you guys where does that come up? And like, is that fuel? Is it momentum? Do you still hear it? Are there still doubters? Or do you think right now, like people are either you've won them over or they're in education mode?
There's always going to be doubters. I think that's that's our opportunity to then bring compelling data forward to basically show them compelling data to try to turn those opinions. But I think there's going to be doubters. But I think one of the things that Diana had shared with me that I think is great when you think about startup culture and just like the hustle that's required is like spend your time and energy on the folks that really believe in this and get that person on board who gets that next person on board who gets the next person on board. We can equip the doubters with the data that really backs up the facts around women's sports. Like we're so lucky to have organizations like Canadian Women in Sport that are publishing compelling data around the movement in women's sports. So now that, the doubt can be met with tangible, measurable data that breaks that down and demonstrates that, hey, I think you're missing something in this perspective. I think maybe you're a little limited, or maybe thinking of what the women's sports ecosystem looked like 20 years ago. We're in a different stage now. Right. But what I think is also our opportunity is like, find those people that believe and spend your time there. Because those people are going to get it. They're going to look at this through the lens that we may be looking at this through as well. And find that one more person. And we're building a big community here. We're building a big tent where everybody is welcome. Doubters are going to be part of it. And we're ready to face that with data.
But I love the idea of like, don't waste your time and energy on them. Yeah. Like, hey, it's great to meet you. But speaking of that big tent, and we've got a few more minutes here, I'd love to maybe talk about, and I'm not necessarily going to put you on the spot unless you want to be on the spot, but your team has brought in, you're working with blue, triple blue chip partners. And I actually haven't gone and looked at your list lately, but I will tell you this is just me. When I actually think of the people that I know that you partner with, it seems like there's a very conscious decision. They're going with tier A brands that are doing incredible stuff. I'll throw it out there. Like I think what DoorDash has done with you and some of the other women's sports leagues and the folks at BMO and like 6 months ago, you didn't have a finals presenter and now you got Toyota and Intact and Simons. How are you getting these folks in the tent? What's the conversation inside the tent? Take people who are listening and watching inside the tent. How does that process? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that we all have dreams, but you are not just selling the dream, you're selling the dream to the best of the best.
I'll give credit immediately to the folks in those seats of the brands that we work with that made a bold choice in a boardroom to say we're going with this league. It's I think when I think about my time in the traditional sports space, when we were looking at like, all right, who the categories that we're trying to tackle, and you think about like,
we don't have anyone in the stapler category. We need a stapler sponsor fast.
Yeah, it's not. I think the work that we've done, at least in this inaugural season, and the approach is going to change as we mature as a league. But at least for the brands that we got on board for this inaugural season, that first cohort, it was less about almost the brand fit of we need a banking partner and we need a food delivery partner. It was we need folks who believe in this and it's almost the people fit over the brand fit. If you know where I'm taking this is, we need Heather Cameron from DoorDash because she gets it and she believes this is the right thing to do. And she's looking at this through the lens that we're looking at this through, and she's going to champion this thing for us. And then lo and behold, a couple months later, She's brought on, they had the WNBA relationship for a number of years, and now adding in the PWHL, and then using their power in the marketplace to help solve a massive systemic issue in women's sports around visibility, and a national ad campaign, and bring it in. And so, like, all credit to the individuals that made that bold choice to support the NSL in their first year. It was really like the people in those decision-making seats that believed this was the right thing to do. So we're so privileged to have the opportunity with Toyota and Canadian Tire and BMO and Intact and Simons, and I'm forgetting some, and WestJet. It's just been an incredible base of partners that we've been able to build this with. And the conversations that we're having is, obviously that's an amazing opportunity to be there from the beginning. That's part of it. But also to be really transparent on where our partners can help us, right? Like, it's amazing that we exist. There's a lot of challenges that we have ahead, but there's great opportunity there for our brand partners to help us creatively solve some of these things, like what DoorDash is doing around visibility. They're trying to get us on more TV screens. That's amazing. Like, and they're able to turn that into something that ultimately they're going to get a ton of benefit out of, because it's such a strong signal to the marketplace of where their values are. That ultimately is going to lead to amazing return on investment. But yeah, I'd say, just to wrap that question up, it's the people that have made the difference. And we're lucky to have these people with us in our corner.
I might be Captain Obvious, but I assume you're seeing the similarity between your interview for the job and the way that you're pursuing.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost like internal NSL language is, we almost use the names of these amazing people at our partners. We're like, okay, we got to find another, and it's not another name corporate or another category.
No, you need another Heather Cameron.
We need another Heather Cameron.
And you want to know what her guilty pleasures are, right? Like, just like your interview, right?
Yeah, 100%. And as I mentioned, but that is going to start to change, right? Like, it is, as we mature as a business, like, what we know is never going away from these decisions that brands are making is that it has to make sense, right? The business case needs to be there. And so, not to say we just, we put all of our eggs in the basket of finding believers. We also want to make sure that we're backing it up with compelling data, so that they are armed with the information to be able to get other folks on board with these investments, because, this isn't just about doing the right thing. This is, there's massive opportunity in here, like 2026, like World Cup, soccer participation is growing at a huge rate. It's the most participated sport in the country. Like, there's so many reasons why this is an interesting property for brands. But it does need to start with a core belief that women's sports is a valuable place to spend your time and energy. And folks who believe that I'm going to do my best to ensure my spends in the sports ecosystem recognize that in 2025 and 2026, the sports landscape looks different than it did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So that's what we've been focusing on.
I think that's the mic drop. I love that. I think that expression and that conversation we had earlier about, you playing on a boys team because that was the only avenue. Clearly what you guys are doing doesn't just apply to the playing field. I think it now applies to the screen. It applies to the partnership area. And I think, to your point, and I don't know Heather Cameron that well, but I had the pleasure of having her on a panel I moderated. And I felt like even in those 45 minutes I got to know her, I think there's people like her who want to be able to direct their marketing dollars to the Brave, to the new properties, not just but she also knows the data's there. But I think even from a brand standpoint, you talk about this ecosystem. There's, when you were at the Canucks 10 years ago and you might have had a woman client on the other side, you didn't have an option for her. She wanted to sponsor women's sports, Olympics, skating, tennis, maybe, but team sport, no options.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like that's a whole nother podcast episode, Mark, but just, I think that there's an amazing, like the fact that we have 3 professional leagues in this country for women has fundamentally changed kind of the sports ecosystem, where now those brands that have been so invested in these sports, we've gone, boop, professional, right? Professional is now there. which is such an amazing thing. It's a huge opportunity for all of us. But yeah, it's we're going to find there's more Heather Camerons out there. There's more room in this tent for folks to come in and enjoy and help us build, because there's tons of room for building.
Well, I don't know when folks are going to be listening to this, but I just want to add a special thanks to Marianne, because like we're literally 2.5 weeks out from the first ever NSL final, right? The first ever professional women's soccer championship. So the fact that you took your time to have this conversation with me, I very much appreciate it. But more than that, like I found it a great chance to get to know you better, but also really interesting. And I just love that notion of, assume good intentions. I'm going to actually try to practice that myself.
All right. There'll be 2 of us then. Yeah.
All
it's
right.
been really good chatting, Mark. I'll see you in Toronto in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay.